Promise that you sing about me forever. Promise that you sing about me forever. Promise that you sing about me forever.
So, if you've been on my channel, you know that I'm in the process of self-publishing a book called Memoirs of a Forgotten Child. If you don't know anything about this channel or Memoirs of a Forgotten Child, check out my previous videos that explains what it's about and what I'm trying to do. And also go to my website, www.vieisme.com, to check out my daily blogs, and they are bomb.
But to say so myself.
Yesterday, I was able to meet up with two resources that are free, that help people in Massachusetts who want to establish a business. There is the Business Administration, who has an off branch of SCORE, and SCORE is basically a free counseling session with somewhat of an expert, a counselor who knows about business and tries to find information and resources to help you establish your business. I met with a specific person, and he said, in his line of work, he does everything from cheese to rocket ships. And he was like serious about it. We kind of kikied on that. But he basically told me, like, you come in, you tell me what you are looking to do, and I found the resources. Now, these resources may not be free. They may cost you significantly less, or, maybe they'll help you out for a discount, or the resources can't help you, but they'll steer you to the right direction. It's basically a guide to help you establish what you want to establish. And I think this type of resource is very, very, very helpful and free, because in Massachusetts, it's expensive as hell to live here. But not only that, a lot of people desire to be a business owner, but they don't know how to become a business owner. It's not like you can go to school for it. You can go to school for business administration. You can go to some school for off branch in entrepreneurship, but ultimately you learn business by doing business. A lot of people don't want to get their feet wet, or they're scared to fail. So therefore, that's why they don't enter into being a business person. So to have the service SCORE, which I'll put their information down below, to help people who want to become business owners in Massachusetts and to be able to speak to a counselor for free, is very, very, very resourceful. So when I talked to the counselor, I told him that, I'm in the process of self-publishing. I'm like at the really dead end aspect of it, and I'm looking for someone to tell me or help me when it comes to establishing my business legit, because I do plan to sell my books. And how would I go about that? Do I just get a little permit, or do I make it into a business type? Which one should I go for? Should I go for the S Corp? Should I go for the LLC, sole proprietorship, etc., etc.? Which one would better fit me? And we talked, and he told me that they do offer that. They do offer seminars and workshops on that, which business type would better suit you. But specifically that day, I went in for self-publishing resources. Now, if you don't know anything about self-publishing, it's basically everything a publishing business would do for you, you do for yourself. So you are your own editor, you are your own reviser, you are your own marketing team, you are a one-woman or one-man band, as everything falls on your shoulders. But all the successes, all the rewards, all the copyrights, all the publishing rights, all that is on yours. So you don't have to cut anybody a check. You don't have any middlemen. You don't have any deadlines. Everything is up to you. But if you don't have the resources, or you don't know how to go about it, again, everything is on you. So you better learn it, or you kind of shit out of luck. A lot of people do put their books out there, and it's good. But if you don't market it right, or you don't have the right team or energy or resources behind you, no one will know how good your book is. And that's something a lot of authors fear, is that it's good. I know it's good, but no one else knows it's good, and no one cares to know it's good. So you want to make sure that you cross every T, dot every I before you put it out there. Not necessarily literally when you're, editing and whatnot, but actually when you have it prepared and you're ready to bring it into the market. A lot of people don't know that a lot of famous books, before they were big hits or bestsellers, a lot of publishing companies were like, I'm good. This includes Twilight, this includes 50 Shades of Grey, this includes Harry Potter, a lot of books that are notorious. Like, if you haven't read it, everybody else read it. Those books were turned down several times before they were even published, and people even took interest into publishing their book, and not only just publishing, but reading it. So I guess if you're self-publishing and that's kind of like your thing where you're worried that people may not be interested in your book, the big timers went through that same thing. And I think it's just any field that you go into, even being an artist, whether it's like someone who actually plays an instrument or someone who has great vocal skills, there will be many times where people are like, you're good, but someone's greater. Or, I don't think you got it. Or, maybe next time. You will go through those ups and downs. You will go through rejection, which will hurt. You will go through constructive criticism, but all that prepares you to when you actually make it, when you actually are where you want to be. Whatever you define success as, when you reach there, you will know what it feels like, and it will be that much more rewarding because you've been through it and now you're here. So this is the packet I got at the meeting. Oh, let me rewind a little bit. So while I was there talking to the score person, he was able to tell me, go to these specific organizations, go to these specific universities and tell them your cause, because a lot of them do pick up college credits and projects of, local residents, and they, will help you out for free. And if you don't know anything about Massachusetts, it is a college state. There's like real estate and colleges on every corner. There's always some type of real estate company, some type of real estate agency, and there's always a college. So he's like, these are the universities, these are what they do, this is their journalism studies, and they are more willing to help you if they know what you're doing and if it aligns with what they do. And of course, who wouldn't want a major university to be like, I worked on that and that's a success, because, we're kind of connected to that, It works all around. So after I was done with that,
it was really like everything was crazy, and something happened in the square where the police had to be called, and like delayed the train for like a good hour and go underground. But it is empty. It never is on time. It never actually works perfectly, and there's always some shit going on.
However, later on that day, I went to a workshop that was provided, and the workshop was for local residents who weren't sure what type of business that they wanted to form, meaning that you could be a partnership, it could be a sole proprietor, it could be an LLC, it could be an S Corp, it could be a nonprofit, and what type of legal entity. Because you could be a corporation, but you have an S Corp and a pass-through, and I'll make sense of everything I just said right now, because you're probably looking at it like, okay. So while I was there, I met with this really nice lawyer, and it's funny because most people think of lawyers as sharks, and I'm not saying she's not a shark, but when I met her, she was cool. We were given a little packet. This was the packet. And she went over it on a PowerPoint presentation about what type of legal entity that you would want, what would better fit you, and she broke down the lingo. The importance of having a legal entity is basically for liability. And liability means that whatever you put out there, if someone wanted to sue you, they would sue the company or the business and not necessarily you. And that's a good thing, because oftentimes corporations get sued, but not necessarily the shareholders, the people who invest in the business, and not necessarily the directors or the officers. And you don't want someone to personally attack you in your pockets, because you may not be necessarily financially stable. You might have other things to do or other responsibilities, but the business in itself, separate from you, it's doing well, And in Massachusetts, if someone takes out a lawsuit on you and they win, they have 20 years to go after you. So you may get some type of job, they may garnish your wages. You might have a house, they might put a lien on your house. You may get married and they may tax your husband. You may have trust fund for your kids, they might have to go after the trust fund. So you have to be stagnant for 20 years and have no type of resources, no type of anything, no type of property, no types of zip for them to not get anything out of you. And you don't want to be in that situation when you could have just protected you. Also, in Massachusetts, self-employment taxes are 36% of whatever you make. That's a lot if you're going into the sole proprietorship. And sole proprietorship means that you're working for yourself and everything. All the profits is basically towards you. You don't have to go to a board of directors. You don't have any partnership. It's just strictly me, myself, and I. And with having a business entity, it gives you structure, it gives you insight on what needs to be done, but also what is people's responsibilities. So you know who's the owners and you know what needs to get done. So that's also a great thing about having a business entity and what type of business entity better suits what you're trying to do. So these are the business types. You have sole proprietorship, which I basically says it's only you. You don't have any partners. You don't have any shareholders. You don't have any type of investments. It's just me, myself, and I. You have general partnerships where it's just you and other people and you all own a share of the business and you all make decisions together for the business. You have that LLC, which is formed under state law, and the LLC is what you have to register with the state. And you could be an LLC and it could just be you, and it could be an LLC and it could be you and a couple of other people, but basically it's you aside from the business. To break it down, like a sole proprietorship would kind of be like me selling things off of eBay, and an LLC would be like me and the business. So it'd be me separately and the business, kind of like the owner of Amazon. I don't know if Amazon is an LLC, but for example, that would be something of an LLC because it's the person and what they're making off the business, but the business is its own entity. It's kind of like its own person. You kind of manage over that business, that person, but you are separate. You pay your taxes, you pay taxes off the business, and you make sure that the business is safe and that the business is making profits, and you're getting your cut of the business, but you're not necessarily pimping the business, so everything will go to you. And sole enterprise, would be the corporations, the L3Cs, the cooperatives, the B Corp certifications, and all that falls into the state, and you have to register with them. So like I said, sole proprietorship, you and your business are the same. You have easy forms, so you don't have to necessarily keep minutes. You don't have to do weekly or monthly meetings. You don't have to keep up a lengthy paperwork because it's basically whatever you do with your sole proprietorship is inside house, so you don't have to let anybody know. You don't really have to let the government know. It's your business. You alone make the business decisions. You are the authority. Everything falls on your shoulder. And the income is taxed to the owner, and sole proprietorship has the highest taxes. I don't know if it's throughout the country or is it just in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is around 36%. And you're taxed yearly on schedule. Every state has a requirement of when taxes are due for you to pay so you can continue your business. And you have unlimited liability. Now, when you are sole proprietorship and someone sues you, they can go directly at you and your business, because you and your business are kind of interchangeably. You are your business. So if they're coming at you, they're coming at you and the business, and you can't say, oh, well, my finances aren't really together, but the business is doing fine, so go at the business. No, they will be coming at you in your pockets. And people are hard to finance you because it's not as clear cut when you are sole proprietorship. They would have to be giving you money and assuming that what you're doing with that money is in the best interest of the business. No one really wants to see that because there's no real paper trail. So it's like, why do I invest in that idea where there is nothing that's telling me in concrete terms that what I'm investing, I will get a major return on? And death and illnesses can change the business too, because if you die, that's the end of the business. You cannot pass that on. If you say, I quit, I want to retire, I want to pass that on, that's harder to do. If you're in it, that's great. But if you want to leave, then you leave. There's nothing else you can do with that. And for sole proprietorship, you pay $50 and it's for a 3-year business certificate. You have, like I said, you have all the liabilities. The credit of the business depends on your credit because, like I said, you are interchangeable with your business. Your business is you. So if someone is going to give you credit because you need credit, then it would depend on your credit and your finances. When you go into other business entities, your credit does kind of affect your business, but you could separate it and be like, look, this is the business. Whenever the business takes out a line of credit, they pay it back. This is our track record. So my credit may be a little janky, but the business's credit is great. So go for business. And that could help you. But when it's sole proprietorship, it's like your credit is your business credit. So if your credit is janky, then the business credit is janky, and no one's going to give you credit. But the advantages of sole proprietorship is that it's simple, it's quick, there's not much paperwork, there's not much trail, and the government is not really in your business like that. No unnecessary filings. You get all the profits, so you don't have to cut anybody a check. You don't got to make sure the shareholders are right. You ain't got to make sure the director's doing what they're supposed to do. Everything is yours. But like I said, the disadvantages are liabilities, high taxes, and you can't bring on partners and co-owners and shareholders and whatnot. Like, if you decide to retire or you die, then the business retires and the business dies too. When it comes to establishing a sole proprietorship, you don't have to pay for any local fees to establish the business. You might have to obtain licenses and permits if needed, depending on what your business or what you're selling. And you might want to consider doing a DBA, and that's doing business as. And that's certain filings that basically say that when you're selling your product, this is when you're going to sell it, this is what the product is, and that's how you're doing business. So it's kind of like a license and certification, just a different wording and different procedure. General partnership, like I said, is you and other people, and you come in and you make business decisions together. So the partnerships share and control decision-making authority, like I said. So it depends. Your business could be 50% you, 50% someone else. It could be 80% you and 20% someone else. So it depends on how you're going to divide power, but basically everybody has to say so when it comes to business. As opposed to when it comes to sole proprietorship, all the decisions fall on you and you are liable for everything that is made. When you're in general partnership, if my partner says that they want to get a lease and they already signed a lease and that lease was a tremendous amount of money and it's going to stick us and it's really going to F up the business, I am liable for his or her decisions. So you have to make sure you both are on the same page, and it's best that you get everything in writing, because if this person goes off and do something that you don't agree with, it doesn't matter that you agree with it or you don't agree with it. Y'all are both on the hook for it. And then there's a pass-through that you could do in general partnership, which a pass-through is basically means that you tax me. You tax the business through me. So when you're doing your yearly taxes, it is also associated with the business. So you get a K-1 from your accountant and they put that on top of your taxes. So you file as if you are an employee of the business, but you also file for any type of profits that you make off the businesses, and you add that onto your taxes. So it's kind of double taxes in a sense. And when you are in a general partnership, it's hard to transfer responsibilities onto other people. It is hard to transfer ownership. So if you say, this person's janky, I don't really want to be in business with this person, I want to call it quits, it's hard to find someone to replace your position in the business, in the partnership. So that's something that you really have to make sure of when you're in a partnership. Is this something that you really want to be in? Is this someone that you really can rely on, that you both are on the same page, you want the same decisions? Because if that's not the case, y'all on the hook. So you better get on the same page. And if the partner ever dies, that just dissolves the business. That's also a thing about general partnerships people don't really consider. If someone dies for whatever reason, cancer, sudden death, hit by a car, that dissolves the business, because your business is based off of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. If that's not the number of people who are now functioning the business and keeping the business alive, that screws over the general partnership agreement. So, and if the partner is out, for whatever reason you were able to get out, you would have to liquidate the business, which is not fun, because basically whatever you have made together as a business, as a general partnership, you kind of have to separate all that. And it's best to get everything in writing. And everything in writing means everything in writing. All your decision making, all the responsibilities, all the ideas you have for the business, because people, when they talk about it, like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that makes sense. And then when you have it in writing, people are like, no, that's not what I wanted. Take this, put that out, rewrite this. I didn't agree to that. A lot of people don't really know what they agreed to until it's written on paper and it's right in front of their faces. So it's best to have everything in writing, how you want the structure of the business, and it's best to do it for the best of the business, not what you feel or how you want it to be, but how the business actually is. The advantages of general partnership is that it's easy, no filing necessary, freedom for filing, reporting. When it comes to corporations, later on in this video, you'll find out there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of minutes, there's a lot of people who have certain titles and whatnot. Everything has to be reported, everything has to be in writing, everything has to be clear cut. Whereas in general partnerships and sole proprietorship, you don't need all that. And co-ownership of profits. So whatever profit that you make, whether you have 50% of the business decisions or 20%, y'all all split the profit. So, you get a piece of the pie. And pass through tax treatment, like I said, when you're filing W-2, like you're a standard employee, you would file that from your business, but the K-1 would also be taxes from the profits that you get from the business. So that would be attached to your W-2 form when you do taxes, and you get the K-1 form from your accountant. And when you have a business, it's best to get an accountant because their job is to know money, their job is to know the laws, their job is to know the procedures, their job is to know everything. You may know what you know, but you may not know what the IRS knows and wants. So it's best to get an accountant. I know a lot of people want to cut corners and get TurboTax or other people to do it for them, or some type of programming, or they're like, you know what, I'll do it myself, save myself a couple of bucks. You don't want to miss something, not check something where you're overpaying or you're underpaying. The IRS is like, no, you missed that, so you owe us a check, or didn't feel this right, so you owe us fees. So it's just best just to do it right the first time, because the first time is the best time. When it comes to general partnerships and sole proprietorship, you do pay for medical, you do pay for Medicaid, like all that your employer pays, you would be paying. The disadvantages of having a general partnership is unlimited personal liability to all partners. So whatever decision your partner makes, that's on your ass too. One partner's decision can bind the other partner. Like I said, if this person gets a lease that you were not happy with, oh well, y'all both are on hook for it. Control issues, disagreements among partners. I may want something, the partner may not want something. We're fighting and we're fussing, but ultimately we would have to get together because it's not about us, it's the business. It's difficult for partners to come in, it's difficult for partners to go out, it's difficult to buy partners because of how the business is set up. And basically, if you don't have anything in writing, legally, how you started the business is how you're going to end it. So, and taxes are kind of higher with general partnerships in comparison to corporations. And when it comes to taxes, you both pay your own individual taxes within the business, and you keep your own books separate. So it's not like sole proprietorship where everything you do is on you, and that's basically your business. No, each partner has to keep their own books and their own records and write down what they know and what they're doing for the business, as opposed to sole proprietorship where everything is your business and you don't have to really keep that much track on the business. For a general partnership, there's no filing with local estate to require establishment. You have to obtain whatever permits and whatever licenses that you have for whatever business that you are doing. You might, like sole proprietorship, want to do a DAB filing. You would have to need a federal EIN, and that's basically the social security of your business. Those are certain numbers that you can get that verify your business and basically trail of the business and the social security of your business, so anybody can type it and pull up your business and see what it's about. With a DAB filing, you could also choose a name under other than yourself. You don't have to choose your business name, whatever name that your mother or father gave you on your birth certificate. You could choose whatever name that suits your business when you do a DAB. And like I said, everything in writing is everything in writing. Everything that you can get in writing is best for you, because when you speak it, people agree, but when you have it on paper, it's more concrete. It helps you out if there any time that you need a lawyer, or any time that outside consultations or whatever. It helps people really understand what they agree to when it's on paper versus when you just verbally say, yeah. Corporations. Corporations are a little bit more trickier because they do have subcategories, and it depends on your business and it depends on a lot of other factors, but this is what generally corporation is. Corporation has shareholders, owners, directors, and officers. Shareholders are basically people who invest in the business. Now, they may not be the people who run the business, but they're the ones who put the paper up to make the business and establish business. So those are shareholders. Directors are the people who run the corporation, who make sure that their decision better suits the business so the shareholders make their money. And the officers may be the secretary, officers, but basically they're all in the business to make the business grow and everybody to make their money. Limited liabilities to shareholders. So shareholders are the ones who invest in the business, but they don't get hit if the business gets hit. They make sure that they get their money. That's what shareholders' reason of getting into the business to make business is to make their investments. They don't really have that much say so with when it comes to how the business is ran. Of course, they make the somewhat of the decisions because they put their money up, but they're not into the day-to-day analysis, the day-to-day works when it comes to what goes on in the corporation because they're trying to get their money back. But they do have input. It's just that depending on how much shares and depending on how much of their percentage in the business says how much of a voice that they have. But it also depends on how much of a responsibility that they have within the business when it comes to the daily workings of the business. Directors have permanent responsibilities. Their basic responsibility is to make sure that the corporation makes money. And corporates are a little bit more stable because you kind of get to sit in the background and check other people on their jobs and their responsibilities, and you get kickback of the money. So when you're a shareholder, your position is really good in a sense because you don't have to do the day in and day out works like a director does, but you do see a good profit if the business is actually making money. When it comes to transferring ownership, it's very easy when it comes to corporations. Of course, it's subjected to certain laws and how the business is set up, but it's easier to say, you know what, I don't really want this responsibility. I'm going to be bought out. I'm going to transfer my ownership to, let's say, my children. You could pass down certain shares. You can make sure that your position within the business is taken care of by other people who care about the business versus sole proprietorship and versus general partnership. But there's also, other fees and expenses that go into the business that if you're in a corporation that would fall on your shoulders. There's certain articles of organizations in Massachusetts and bylaws that you have to follow in a corporation, and that's just for every corporation. In a corporation, there is the boards of the company, and they run the company. They make decisions of the company. They make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. Then there's the director who chooses the officers and the shareholders who invest in the business. The director has to do what's in the best interest of the shareholders, because if the director is not doing what's most profitable for the shareholders can boot out the director. And the company is separate from you personally. So like if someone's trying to sue, they could sue the company, but they can't sue you. And if you die, like I said, you can transfer your power to your children. You can transfer it to a friend. You can just say, I want out. Not even just in death. You could just let someone buy you out. So it's easier to move around in a corporation versus a sole proprietorship and general partnership. And you have to file articles and bylaw paperwork. And that means like if you have a conversation, you have a meeting, you have to record the meeting. You have to have someone write it down, the minutes, the paperwork, what was said, etc., etc. And you have to send that in when it's required you to. Because if you don't, the IRS can come after you. You can get sued if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So you want to make sure that you are hyper vigilant when it comes to what are the policies and what you need to do for the corporation to stay a corporation and for you not to have the government in your business. And when it comes to investors, which is easier in a corporation versus the sole proprietorship, there's paperwork. So people are more interested to invest in what you're doing because they can see what you're doing versus a sole proprietorship. You have a paper trail that they can be like, oh, okay, you made this much profit in this much quarter. Okay, I see that it's increasing. I see that, you're a little slow when it comes to this product. People are more interested in putting their money where their mouth is when they see the numbers versus you talking. Equity in the company is easier for employers. Basically, the employees put money into the corporation, and they kind of are somewhat like shareholders where they invest in the company and they do get a kickback as an equity, and also, getting a weekly or bi-weekly paycheck. But when you are in a corporation, you do pay 35% taxes, and that's when you get your employment checks, and then on top of that, you get your profit from the business, and you pay your employment tax, and you pay taxes on that profit. So it's called a double taxation. But in general, when it comes to corporations pay less taxes than sole proprietorship and general partnerships. But when it comes to when you have equity and whatnot in the corporation, you do pay your employee tax, but you also pay taxes off your profit. So there is the C corporation, which you get the double taxation. You do pay taxes on your income that you do receive from the business. And shareholders pay taxes on the same income when it's distributed to them. So basically, you're paying taxes on what you get in return as a profit. And then on top of that, you do pay taxes on what is divided between you and all the other shareholders. And an S Corp, you do get the pass-through. Many consultants do the pass-through, and the pass-through is basically with the K-1. Like I said previously, at federal level, corporation itself does not pay taxes, but does file an information tax return. Schedule K-1 prepared by the corporation and delivered to the owners. So basically they're saying the corporation doesn't file taxes, but does file an information tax return. And that's the whole K-1 situation I was talking about. A corporation doesn't have more than 100 shares. It has one class of stock. And everybody who is a shareholder has to be a U.S. resident. They have to have certain trust in estates and certain tax exempts. The corporation does select an S Corp status with the IRS, and if filing is invalid or terminated, the corporation will be taxed as a C Corp. Versus an LLC in a corporation, there's stocks and shares and ownership in the company. So you're invested in the business making money because you make money, versus where it's a sole proprietorship and a general partnership. And then there's the LLC, and the LLC is limited liability company. And this means it is a separate legal entity formed by one or more individuals under state law. And these are the certain qualifications for having an LLC. Flexibilities and rights of ownership and how company will be controlled. So it's not so rigid as a corporation, though there are certain requirements of having an LLC. It is not as rigid. You don't really have to do the whole minutes and keeping track of everything like a corporation. However, there are certain laws that you have to abide by when you do have an LLC. Like the sole proprietorship, you can have a pass-through. As a single member LLC, you will be disregarded for tax purposes only. Owner files a tax return like a sole proprietor. So if you are the only person who is running the LLC, then you would be filing the tax return like a sole proprietorship. So it depends on how many people who are in the LLC. Depending on how many people are in the LLC depends on if you're going to be treated more so as a sole proprietorship or more on the corporation tip. So it depends on how many people are in the LLC. And the LLC is more stable as opposed to a sole proprietorship, because the sole proprietorship, like I said, everything is on you. So you making money makes the business make money, but you and the business are not separate. You are like intertwined. And you do have to get certification of organization and operating agreement. And like I said, with all the other business entities, I always say write down everything. And this is the same thing for the LLC. Write down the owners, their responsibilities, how everything is organized and structured. Because oftentimes, like I said before, people always agree when you say verbally, but when you have it on paper, people may disagree. To have their business together so no one sues anybody, there's no messy legal battles, it's best to have everything written down. And when it comes to LLC, there's flexible contributions. So like a person can own 90% of the business, but get 10% of the profits, because LLC is not only about the ownership, but it is about the contribution. So I may own 90% of the business, but I only contribute 10% of the actual hard, gritty work. So I only get 10% of the profits. So power and money and profits don't necessarily balance equivalently when it comes to LLC. The advantages of having an LLC: liability protection, relatively easy to transfer from one owner to another. Operating agreement governs all issues regarding an LLC, so like having everything written down helps with all the governing of the LLC. It has a stable existence and delegations of responsibility, goal on the side that I want to, versus when a benefit corp is like, you're interested to make money. However, we slide a little something to other causes. L3C is always about the mission first. They have to give annual grants and consider other things than money. So it's more nonprofit-ish, if that makes sense. So your mission, whatever your goal is, like let's say it's breast cancer, everything has to do with breast cancer. Everything that you're doing has to do with breast cancer. So whatever you're selling, that has to connect to breast cancer. And you have to have a paper trail, and the government has to see that you are giving back. When it comes to L3Cs, most of them give money to nonprofits, because nonprofits most likely will do what's in the best interest of the mission versus giving it to a company, because you couldn't give that money to a company and they have lobbyists, and the lobbyist goes against anything that has to do with curing breast cancer or breast cancer treatment, and the government may be like, so we gave you the opportunity to go the L3C route, and now you're over here giving money to the business that goes against anything breast cancer. So you're going against your mission, but you are based off your mission. So most of them just go the nonprofit route, but it's just so much rules and policy. People don't really catch on to the L3C like that. And social enterprise kind of has like the nonprofit aspect to it, because you're asking to be taxed a little differently, and you're asked to be less taxed. And the government likes to give out taxes, and the government likes to take out taxes. So when you're asking that, they're going to be all up in your business and making sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, because if not, they're going to look at you as if you're trying to steal from the government, that you're trying to evade taxes, and they don't like that. And then there's the BLC, where everything in the article, all that is written, the formation, the structure of the business, has to have benefit language. So everything that you do is in the interest of the business, but it's also in the interest of, being socially conscious, which a lot of people don't really want. Well, I'm not gonna say a lot of people don't want to go the BLC route. It's just that it's just a lot of different language, and there's a lot of certain criteria that people aren't really catching up to. And then there's benefit corporations, run and tax like a corporation in all aspects. Articles of incorporation language, independent benefits director, benefit report, professional B Corps are exempt from independent. Other types of entities, there is the LP, and that is the limited partnership. Limited partnership allows a silent investor to share in profits, have limited liability, but no controlling filings required. So limited partnership is basically someone that doesn't really have a say-so in the day-to-day running of the business, and they do get a profit of the business, and they don't really get a say-so. They don't really get any liabilities. If the business gets hit, they're kind of like, not my problem, I'm just here for the money. They don't have any controls, but they do have to file, and probably the filing has to do with taxes. Limited liability partnership, LLP. Limited liability partnerships appropriate for certain types of businesses, i.e. lawyers go this route, because lawyers consistently are dealing with the court system and lawsuits and whatnot. So that's the route that they typically go. And then there's a professional corporation appropriate for certain types of professional services. And the professional corporation is basically, if I want to do a business that has to do with medical, I would have to be a doctor. If I have a business that I want to do that has to do with, law and the structure of law, I would have to be a lawyer. If I want to have a business that is an architectural firm, I have to make sure that the majority of people who are working in the business are architects. So it's basically whatever your profession is, that's connected to your business. So you can't be like, oh, I want to be in a business that is heavily controlled by doctors, but I've never been a doctor. I've never went to school for being a doctor. I've never even opened up a pamphlet about doctors. So whatever your profession is, and you're trying to make money off of it, you actually have to be that, which makes sense, because I wouldn't want to go for legal advice and you're not a lawyer. So, and then there is the nonprofit exempt organizations, must be formed to charitable purposes. And most nonprofits go the C3 route because they are tax deductible versus all the other types of nonprofit routes that are taxed. And like I said, the government tends to look at it like, if you want to be tax deductible, then you're probably hiding something from us and you're trying to evade us from taxes and you're stealing from us. So they're going to be on your ass. Every penny that you spend in nonprofit has to be accountable for, especially if you're getting grants. I worked in nonprofits before, and there's always budgeting, re-budgeting, budgeting for next year, last year's budget, the current year's budget, and every single dime has to be accounted for because they look at it as you're stealing versus as you're doing right for the general public. So I asked her a few questions about me specifically as a self-published author and what would be the best thing for me. And she said most authors go the LLC route, which I kind of figured that I wanted the LLC route, but I'm kind of in between LLC and social enterprise because I do like the social consciousness part of it, but I am here to do business. So it's kind of split. So later on, I'll probably figure out exactly what business entity I want to go as, but that's where I'm kind of like, eh. She said that copyright is the best thing that you want to do. You want to trademark your stuff. You want to make sure that your name is available because anybody could jock it, and then you kind of should have a luck if someone takes what you want. Make sure that your book is copywritten, though you do have rights of intellectual property, but when you're in court and you haven't copywritten it, you really can't fight for it, versus when you do have a copyright and you do have a certification that says, you know, this is yours, it's easier to fight. And then when it comes to different lawsuits, like common law is when you sue because someone is stealing your intellectual property and it caused you personal harm. And that is when you don't have a copyright, but you want to say to the judge, like, hey, this person stole my material. They put it out online for free. They stole several chapters of my book. It has harmed me. But if you don't have anything concrete to show that this is harm, the judge may just be like, okay, you know, that was kind of messed up, but I don't see how it personally harms you. Versus when you do have a copyright and you say, you know, this person put it out for free, it's harming me. Like, okay, this is profits. This is really yours. This is something that is really harmful to your business. Therefore, this person will, you know, have to pay you for your decisions. But when it comes to even coming up with a business entity, make sure that you have a public facing, meaning that you have everything together, everything is structured, and that's when you come out. You don't want to just have a business entity and it's just chilling there. I mean, this is a waste of time, and you know, you do have to file every year, so you're filing year after year after year, and you really don't have anything together. So make sure that everything is together before you choose a business entity and do the filings and the paperwork and whatnot. And you really can't even say it's an infringement like common law. You can't even say it's an infringement of your copyright when you don't have anything copyrighted. So it's kind of like you don't have anything proof that it is yours and it is for this intended purpose when you don't have a copyright. And you, when it comes to businesses, when it comes to self-employment, sole propriety, S Corp, LLC, there is an estimated tax that you do fill out quarterly. And basically, it's every quarter you fill out taxes and you send it to the government of what they assume your taxes will be. And at the end of the year, you either pay more or the government gives you a check back. And that's for federal and state when you do the estimated taxes. So hopefully everything I explained makes sense. I know this video was long. I know it's long because I was talking and I felt like it was long. So hopefully it gives you a clearer idea. Please do your research before you just pick out a business entity, because it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of filing, it's a lot of headache. And don't just look at this video and be like, okay, I'm just going to go S Corp, I'm going business enterprise. Do your own research. Get a lawyer. Choose a lawyer that you trust and a lawyer that's actually good at what they do. They make you comfortable. I know a lot of people be like, I don't want to call a lawyer because that's just going to be a fee. If I just need to talk to someone for like 5 minutes, that's $80. I don't want to do $80. But it's better to pay that $80 and get that lawyer to be like, okay, this is what you should do. Yada, yada, yada. And you're good versus you didn't call a lawyer and now that $80 turned into $2,000. So do what you got to do. Some lawyers offer, you know, certain type of legal advice, and they'll give it for you for free. And then once you want to really establish and get that popping and get the business together and you choose your business entity, that's when they actually charge you. But it depends on the lawyer, it depends on what you want to do, it depends on everything, your resources, where you live, etc., etc., etc. Hopefully this helps you. Leave your comments below. Do you want more information like this? What business entity do you think better suits you? What business are you interested in doing? You know, I'm interested in becoming a self-published author. What are you interested in doing? And did I explain everything right? So leave your comments below. Comment, rate, subscribe, share. And as always, be blessed and I'm out.